Welcome, thanks for joining in today. So today I wanted to show you my new build. This is the H200i case from NZXT. It has EVGA's GTX 1070 superclock, and I have an i7 8700 in there with 16 gigabytes of 3200 DDR4 memory. So I know some of you probably are wondering, why don't you have any RGB stuff going on there? Personally, I like subtlety, so having the LEDs from the case and the graphic card is enough for me. If I do want to put RGB, I'll do that later on, but for now, I kind of like to use the lights to showcase the inside. So that's how I have it set up for now. So I went with the white and black style because, you know, the case is white and black, so I kind of wanted to go with a white and black theme. So for this new build, I made sure to have several key components. This year I wanted to make sure I have an i7. Last year I had an i5 and I wished I had hyperthreading. So this year I got the i7 8700. It's a hex core CPU that does hyperthreading. And to cool this CPU, I get the M9i. The I stands for Intel, so if you want an AMD CPU, you're gonna have to get the M9a. So keep that in mind. And this is a Mini-Itx build, so I went with the M9 because it's smaller, and I think proportion-wise, which is subjective also, I think looks better. I was thinking the H7, but it's kind of big, so I went with this cooler. And I got the TridentZ 3200 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's my first time using this RAM. It has very thick heat sinks, so keep that in mind. So it was a very tight squeeze. And I got the Z370i to sit all these guys on top of. It's a really good motherboard. It only has it has one CPU fan connector and one system fan connector, so keep that in mind. So the other alternative I was thinking was the ASUS 370i, but I really like this aesthetics and design. I really like this design, so I went with this one. And because the H200i has a lot of fan connectors with the smart device. So for comparison, I have the H200i sitting next to the Thermaltake Core V1. And just for fun, I have the EVGA 1070 box next to the case. You can see they're about the same size in height and maybe in width. So the front part of the case is pretty plain. It has this NZXT logo on it. And on top, you have the power button on the right, two USB 3 ports, headphone, microphone jacks, and a hard drive activity light. And you have the holes for the top exhaust vent. The right side is pretty plain, but you do have these pores, so if you have intake fans, they will go in through there. On the left side, you have the tempered glass, and you have the pores as well for the intake fans. On the back, you have the bottom is where the power supply would sit. GPU. Left side is the I/O shield for the motherboard, and you have I believe this is a 120mm exhaust fan, and on top actually is also a 120mm exhaust fan as well. So these two fans come included with the case. With the front panel removed, you have a dust filter. I have two 140mm fans in here. Let me take out the filter. I just wanted to kind of show you. And I have two 140mm fans in here for intake. They are very quiet. One thing I will point out is I did not know that trims don't come included. I thought they would come included because I saw the pictures. But keep that in mind, you have to buy the trims separately. So these come with the default gray trims. So I don't know if you can hear, but it is really quiet. If you listen very closely, you can kind of make out fan noise or air noise, I would say. But everything here is very, very quiet. So one thing I wanted to show is the cam software. So I know a lot of people have had issues in the past with cam software with the Hue and the Grid Plus, but with the cam, with the NZXT Smart device, which is, you know, grid and the hue all integrated together. So far I haven't had any issues. It's been running pretty well. I haven't had any crashes or any funky stuff happening, so it's been pretty good so far. One interesting thing is the CPU. This thing moves around a lot, but typically I see it running at 800 megahertz. I'm not sure if that's accurate. So let's check Task Manager. Let's look at the CPU counter here. So I'm looking at 2.5, 2.3 gigahertz, and these two are not running the same. Probably the CPU fan is correct, Celsius is correct, but just that percentage, maybe it's percentage load is usually it's pretty in sync with the CPU counter and the Task Manager. But yeah, that clock speed is usually very different from what I see in Task Manager. But other than that, like the memory load is the same, so everything else seems pretty similar, so I don't really notice major differences in that. Generally, I like this big view. You can see all the detail information, such as the core temperatures. You can see the, all the hardware information over here, motherboard information here, network speed, RAM, GPU, so forth. And it's pretty cool. I like it. It tells you all the kind of brief overview information on the side here, like processor, graphic card. It knows I'm using G-Skill RAM. It knows the motherboard, and it knows the hard drive information as well. So that's pretty cool. But one thing, if you don't want this, this big view, you can also minimize it, and you get this kind of brief view of the your configuration. So you can see the CPU, GPU, RAM, storage information here, and you have tabs on the left, which show here's the case fan. Actually, the front is fan 1 is actually connected with a splitter, and I actually have 2 of the front case fans connected to this. It doesn't show the speed. I'm not sure how the PWM is working here, because I know when it goes in load, the fans kick in really high, so you can actually start hearing the fans. But overall, it's really quiet, and you can see the exhaust fans here, 2 and 3. This is the back and the top case fans. LED lighting control over here, and just calibration stuff. This has adaptive noise reduction, but I haven't had any issues with noise so far, so I'm good. And here's the firmware for the cam device. So overall, I do like the software. It runs really well. Just a little bit iffy about the clock speed. It is accurate. It actually knows what the speeds are, like the max clock speed and so forth, but generally I don't find this number to be very similar to what I've seen in Task Manager. So I generally kind of go with Windows Task Manager, so actually I'm not sure who is the one to look at. But in general, I do like this version better than the full screen. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, you can ask, and I'll do my best to answer them. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.